If you enjoy this video, please remember to subscribe if you haven't already. And if you like what you see on my channel and would like to support me on Patreon, click on the link below.
Spock has traded in those pointed ears for a canvas chair and a viewfinder. Leonard Nimoy is now a movie director. He directed Star Trek III, The Search for Spock. Leonard Nimoy has taken a personal interest in all aspects of this film. From production to publicity, it's his baby.
Here on the world-famous Paramount lot, Star Trek the movie began. A cast and crew is once again assembling, this time to bring to the screen the long-awaited Star Trek III, The Search for Spock.
This is the first time that I've been given an opportunity to really express my thoughts and feelings about Star Trek, and I think it's on the screen. Simply because I've been with the project for 18 years now. And no matter how talented other directors are, and we had two very talented men, Robert Wise and Nicholas Meyer, that did Star Trek 1 and 2, they simply have not had that depth of relationship with the show and with the actors that I have had, and therefore I should be able to put something a little bit different on the screen.
Well, the crew of the Starship Enterprise is blasting off again, traveling to where no man has gone before. And that means there's another Star Trek movie. It is called Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home. Leonard Nimoy is back as Mr. Spock, and he's back as our guest. It's nice to have you here. For all the Trekkies out there who are hanging on your every word, how much can you tell us about what the movie is about?
Well, in the 23rd century, which is the time of Star Trek, Earth is in terrible trouble. We, the crew of the Enterprise, have to go back 300 years in time to now to pick up something here on Earth that no longer exists in the 23rd century and carry it into the 23rd century to save the planet. Yeah, we've done some pretty serious and heavy drama in the last three films. Lots of life and death and Sturm and Drang and operatic emotions and stuff like that, and we decided it was time to lighten up.
Well, we're sitting in a ship called, this is the Bird of Prey. This is a Klingon ship that we are trying our best to get out of every day. It's part of the set that we're working in now. This is a ship that really doesn't belong to us, and we're trying to get home in it. It's about as safe as I can put it, I think.
Are there any dilithium crystals in Star Trek 4?
There are, but unfortunately it's the Klingon variety that we have to use. And they're like Swiss cheese. They got a few holes in them.
Star Trek 4 is, I haven't seen it, is going to be wonderful entertainment. It's going to be lighthearted in many ways, amusing, very funny. And it's a whole other look at Star Trek and its people.
We have our tensions on the set, just like anybody else would when there's a difference of opinion. But in general, we really, I think I can honestly say that we admire each other's work and have a lot of respect for each other's work, and we get along very well. I think he's a terrifically hard-working professional actor.
The records show the commander and crew of the Starship Enterprise, late Starship Enterprise, have voted unanimously to return to Earth to face the consequences of their action and the rescue of their comrade, Captain Spock. This film is treated a little more lightly.
I think it makes a very trenchant, poignant statement about the human condition and about the quality of life.
And it's my sincere feeling that it's going to pick up an audience that we have never had before, because it's dynamite.
1986, that's the 20th anniversary of Star Trek. Did any of you ever dream that you would still be doing the same characters all these years later?
Never had a doubt about it. Of course, nobody knew.
But what we were saying then was that this show probably will end after the first season because it's too good for television. Yeah. There was quality that we smelled here. There was integrity that we saw here.
I never dreamed that I would have this kind of longevity in this thing. When we made the series in 66, 67, 68, we were a moderate success, never really a hot show. It wasn't until the syndication, 72, 3, 4, that the show really started to take off and became, and still is, the #1 syndicated show in television history. It's quite an accomplishment. I feel very proud of being part of that.
How strange has it been for you to really be able to see yourself there in living color on screen? as you grow older over the years? Because none of the rest of us have
Well, it's
that
quite
happen to us.
extraordinary.
Yeah.
It's quite extraordinary, really. And in a way, I feel a great sense of accomplishment. You know, to still be around and still be acceptable doing it for so long, and for people who want to still continue to see it for so long. I think in this picture, in Star Trek IV, the work that I did as Spock is the most relaxed I've ever done, and certainly the interaction between myself and the other characters is the most comfortable I've ever been, and I think it is because of the passage of time. There are some things that happened between us, particularly between Bill Shatner and myself in this movie, that could only happen after working together for 20 years. And then 3 Men and a Baby was this monstrous hit, very inexpensive film, did gigantic box office. So for 2 years in a row, I had top 10 movies as a director in this career that I had just sort of said, I'd like to do this. You know?
There is no greater exploration thrill than space. Speaking for myself, I am constantly getting mail from young people who are now in medicine because of McCoy. And those things alone make it worthwhile to you. You think, why in the hell am I here? What am I doing? You know? But when you get a letter like that, it makes it all worthwhile.
This is the first time since the series when there is individual focus on the characters. When the dialogue is written for the characters, I'm talking, obviously, you know, when you're talking about the 3 starring roles, you know you're going to get very specific dialogue. But for the supporting actors as well, dialogue is indigenous to those characters, so that we each have a moment in the sun, so to speak.
Or 2 or 3.
Yeah.
We all banded together 20 years ago to do something very positive about the future, and here we are in the future still doing it. It's a very logical idea, isn't it?
Oh, it's been good fun. It's been a real engaging 2 decades, and that's what we're celebrating this year now. But beyond fun, it's been very satisfying as well, because it is a show that we can take great pride in. It's something that did make an impact on American society beyond just television.
Stand by, Mr. Sulu. Spock has something.
The series, while it was extremely good entertainment, I think at the same time offered food for thought and gave people opportunities to look at subjects that they thought they knew about in a new way.
I think that it is a most extraordinary phenomenon, perhaps in all of television, the most extraordinary phenomenon that we have been able to endure for this period of time and gone on and gotten bigger. We've never had to apologize for what we've done.
Gene Roddenberry did something so unorthodox. He put men and women of all races and persuasion on a starship and sent them out where no man or woman has gone before. I just think it's fantastic and admirable and brilliant.
I told him, I said, I think it's going to be the biggest hit or the biggest miss God ever made. And it turned out to be a bit of both.
Really, Dr. McCoy, you must learn to govern your passions.
People actually thought we were doing a successful television show. These things were rerun so many times and accepted. We were not. We were getting all the accolades and everything that should go with the television show of great success, but we weren't being paid for it.
I cannot estimate the degree to which it has hurt the career. I think that it is a viable influence on my not working.
Was it good for your career? Did it hold you back? How do you fit in it? Actually, in a way, it was really bad for my career because I'm typecast basically as a Scotsman now. And a great friend of mine told me, he says, hey, Jimmy, he says, you just better cool it because he says, you are going to be Mr. Scott for the rest of your life. And he says, get used to it. So after 4 or 5 years, I started getting used to it. And now, because you're famous all over the world, I'm quite used to it. And I get to love it. And it's awfully nice.
I get letters continually of someone who's gone into medicine because of McCoy. Nursing, anything to do with medical. They were stimulated by this show to move on. And I'm sure people in the other cast members probably have experienced the same thing.
I know very well that I have influenced a lot of people, and mostly people who get into engineering or the allied subjects, and a lot of women.
I have had letters and have met and come in contact with young women who have said to me, I was at a point in time when I just really wanted to give up. I was at a point in time when I thought, the hell with the world. There's nothing there for me. And you came on. And I thought, my God, there's somebody there representing me. I'm there in the future.
Now they will not be part of the brand new Star Trek TV series that is being planned. So how do they feel about that?
When I first heard about it, all I thought was, and I was so surprised later at my reaction, all I could think of was, free at last. Free at last, my God almighty. I thought the burden of being a whore for 20 years, is finally over. They're going to do something new, and you don't have to worry about it. And then that was the good news. The bad news is that they're going to keep us around to do all the movies.
Star Trek, The Next Generation, I'm sure is going to be a good show because it has the talents of Gene Roddenberry and many of the people that contributed to it. But I do think that title, Star Trek, The Next Generation, is unfortunate because, as I said, it's going to take place 100 years from now. The characters are all going to be different. They're not even going to be the progenies of the characters that we know. The look is different. The technology is different. It's going to be quite a different show. And when you have the title Star Trek attached to it, inevitably, it's going to raise expectations and certain anticipations of what we personified, the kind of chemistry that was there, the characters that they loved, and the kind of world that was created by the name Star Trek. It's going to conjure up those expectations. So no matter how good the show, it's not going to be able to live up to those anticipations for the show, and inevitably it's bound to disappoint. I think because I'm sure it's going to be a good show, it would be wiser to give to that show a name that will give it a fair chance to be appraised on its own merits. Maybe, Adventures in Space or the year 2400 or something, so that it can stand on its own feet rather than use Star Trek as a crutch, which I think may be more a curse on them.
What interested me in this one, they said it's impossible to do again, at which point my ears perked up. There are a lot of issues and challenges in the 80s and 90s and the end of the century that need talking about.
Star Trek: The Next Generation is on its new mission to the galaxy of syndicated television, to boldly go where no TV ratings have gone before.
Go to yellow alert.
Shrouded in secrecy, the new Star Trek TV series in production now will debut this fall with a 2-hour premiere and then 24-hour-long episodes, all under the guiding hand of the original Star Trek creator, Gene Roddenberry.
It was like a dream come true, actually, because of being a Trekkie fan.
I walked in and I went, oh my God, I'm in the transporter room, Oh, check it out, this is the engine. And I'm explaining to my mom, okay, now this does this. And I walked under the bridge and I knew what everything did and who sat where and did this and that. And it was unbelievable.
I could get used to this. 5-6-year mission? Yeah, it feels good.
It's not that the characters don't accept the mantle of responsibility they're charged with.
My mission and the mission of my crew of the Starship Enterprise is to explore the unknown, to investigate that which is new and strange, to go where men have never been before.
It's just that each of the Starship crew members has his or her own unexplored frontiers to conquer.
I get to drive onto the Paramount lot now without any problems. That's been the best part so far.
For all of us, in those early weeks, months of the series, we were still underestimating what the impact of the series would be. We would sit around on the set during the first season and say, well, we'll get through this season, and I don't know, maybe there'll be a second, but I'm sure that's going to be it. We never imagined that we would see out the 6 years of our contract, plus a 7th year.
I don't think any of us actually anticipated that it was going to take off quite in the way it did. Certainly we wanted it to, but the odds, I think, were pretty much stacked against us. trying to duplicate the success of another show, particularly a classic.
On the original Star Trek, I practically lost my family from working so many 12-hour days, 14-hour days, 7 days a week. And I said, you can't pay me enough to do that. But then they said, hey, but suppose we did it in a way in which they call syndication, in which we don't have a network, and we don't have all those people. And Paramount was saying to me, and we guarantee to you that you will be in charge of the show.
The thing that's amazed me about Roddenberry more than anything else is that he has never allowed anything to change his image of the future. Not studios, not networks, not writers like me coming in saying, come on, Gene, Don Johnson, Miami Vice, let's heat it up. None of that. He maintains that integrity to that vision.
The verdict of the Trekkers is probably very close to that of the driver who brought us in this morning, who told me that he was uneasy about the idea of a new series, but after exposure to the pilot, that he was completely persuaded and convinced, not only that we were in the direct line of the original Star Trek, but that it was also something that was new and exciting and entirely acceptable.
I worry less than I did when we began. It was a very skeptical audience, primarily, and I think, as Patrick pointed out, I think we won them over. I trust we won them over.
Yeah, what I think their unease was that we were going to attempt to repeat the same thing, that it would be some attempt to carbon copy the original, and I think the charm of the show is that it's a development. It's moved on from the original.
Mark?
I am a Star Trek fan. I've been for a long time. It's a perfect situation. I mean, it's like we've lived and gone to heaven.
Most of the cast was new to American audiences.
To a long and successful voyage, the new crew of the Enterprise.
Live long and prosper.
I had to put all this stuff on and become this character. And that felt wonderful.
When I was an actor, first working with the Royal Shakespeare Company in Stratford-on-Avon, Warwickshire, England, after my Saturday afternoon matinee, it was my custom to scuttle home for tea time and Star Trek.
Captain.
Flash!
Takeoff for the series was a bit rough, but soon it was season 2. Gene Roddenberry felt validated.
I feel sort of relieved because, you know, Leonard Nimoy said you can't catch lightning in a bottle twice. Everyone said it's impossible to do it a second time, and I kind of thought so too.
It's my first experience with a show that's gone into a second season, and it's great. It resembles Security, or what I heard Security is.
I've been asked the question, you've after doing all of those episodes, are there new things you can do? My God, yes. The basis of our series is the galaxy, and there's quite a few stories out there.
I had a story going that I sold to Paramount for Star Trek V, and then they proceeded to change the story and change the name. And somebody came up with the name Final Frontier for whatever reason. I don't even quite know why, because my original story was called An Act of Love.
Shooting on this picture, he was doing something that I totally recognized and identified with because I had done the same thing. He was overscheduled the first week. We're out on location, and we all really knew that there was too much work for the time allotted. But he's such a, he has, like I do, and I recognize that, such a sense of responsibility to try to really get it done. So he assumed that if he talked fast enough and giving the direction, we would get everything done together. So he said, get over here, and you one of the three guys were there, and came over here, and you run uphill, and everything, and everything. That's it, goes.
Star Trek V was Bill Shatner's time at bat. I had directed 3 and 4, and he wanted a chance at directing a Star Trek movie, and I thought he deserved it. It was a tough location film. The terrain was kind of hilly at some point. It was kind of a shale surface, and we had to come running down it. I was worried about Dee Kelly, frankly. I thought Dee might have a tough time coming down this hillside running because the shale was kind of slippery and you could lose your footing. So we start down, director Bill Shatner yells action, and we're coming down the hill, and I'm trying to find my way, and here came Dee Kelly coming down like a mountain goat. I couldn't believe it. He's sprinting, boom, 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 boom. He's down at the bottom. I'm still trying to get there.
And I think if you were to ask me the difference between what you've seen so far and what Bill has done, I think his is a different kind of filmmaking in that it brings his particular kind of energy to it.
The original cast is back for Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country.
This is the Starship Enterprise. We've been ordered to escort you to your meeting on Earth.
Guess who's coming to dinner?
I have so wanted to meet you, Captain. One warrior to another.
The storyline takes rather unusual twists and turns. Again, they battle the dreaded Klingons under the command of Captain Kirk. The rest of the plot is being kept under wraps by the studio.